This episode of Midco Sports Magazine is presented by Shields and Sanford Orthopedics and Sports Medicine.
Hello, welcome again to Midco Sports Magazine. Family is our theme this month. We have a story coming up about a soccer family in Pierre, South Dakota, headed by a father who played the game professionally in Brazil. And how a trip to the Super Bowl brings a sense of hope and healing to wounded warriors and their families. But a baseball story up first, and it's about a man who's very good at teaching the game, but it's more about a hard choice that he had to make that turned out to be the right move for him and for the baseball community in Sioux Falls. Here's Jason Andera.
In hitting, timing is everything.
I started learning about the timing of when you get ready and how I combine that with being on time for a fastball and still having some balance for an off-speed pitch.
For Steve Phillips, timing has played a huge role in sports and in life. He grew up with a ball in his hand all year round. He played football, basketball, baseball nonstop as a kid. But when you ask him what he wanted to be when he grew up,
I wanted to play in the NFL. My mom didn't want me to play. My dad told her that we were going to soccer tryouts and soccer practice for 2 weeks. And she shows up at the first game, and it's a football game, and I scored 3 touchdowns, and that was the end of that argument. So
that dream of making it big in football led him down the road to Lexington to play in the SEC for the Kentucky Wildcats. Although he chose football, he didn't burn bridges with the other sports that he grew up with.
And at the end of that last season, it's right after Thanksgiving, I go into the baseball coach's office and ask him about playing. Well, he says, you know, we do our tryouts in the fall, beginning of the school year, and so our team's kind of set, but just come back after Christmas break and we'll have the hitting coach work with you a little bit. I go through 2 weeks of hitting and all of their drills with them, and they handed me a uniform and said, you're on the team.
In his 4 years of playing football at Kentucky, Steve caught just 1 touchdown pass. But within 4 weeks of making the baseball team, he was already a starting outfielder. After an impressive 6 for 10 weekend with a pair of homers at Vanderbilt, his life was about to change again.
Yankee scout was there and they have interest.
The 27-time world champion Yankees were one of 5 teams to make him an offer to play professional baseball.
I was talking to a Montreal Expo scout, and he says, you know, if you were a junior, you would be getting probably a pretty good offer and drafted in a good spot, but you're an older guy, you're a 5th-year senior, you're not going to get offered a lot of money. I would go with the team that offers you the most money.
He took that advice and signed with the Yankees organization.
I felt like I had a couple seasons that were going well, and I had injuries. So I'm older than most of the kids I'm playing with by a year or 2, and then when you have injuries, you're not a prospect, you kind of fall off the radar real quick. I'm in my 4th year and they ask me what I think about coaching, and right away I get on the defensive. I'm like, well, I'm gonna play for a while. I'm gonna play for a while.
But he was soon released, and some unfortunate timing limited his pro baseball opportunities.
The next day I get a phone call from the manager that's gonna be in Aberdeen. Well, I'm still upset about being released. And so I said, let me have a few days. I'm going to drive home and see if there are any other teams interested. And that's when we check, and guys have extra guys. And five teams responded and just said, in another year we probably would, because we've scouted your games, and but this year we don't have room. So a week later, I'm looking at a map and I see South Dakota. I see Aberdeen, South Dakota. I'm thinking, this is going to be a tough decision, but I want to keep playing, so I'm going to go up in the middle of nowhere and play some more baseball.
Sometimes the unexpected road leads to the right destination.
I actually met my wife the first day I get in town, and you know, I was at that point I knew I wanted to continue seeing this girl, and eventually ended up getting engaged and married. So it has worked out quite well.
So the couple moved to Sioux Falls from Aberdeen while Steve continued his baseball career as a minor league coach.
So we go 8 years with them here and me traveling. Every year I'm leaving in March, I come back in September. And I miss a lot during the summer. And I love pro ball, I miss pro ball, but I missed a lot with my kids. There was like a 3-year span. I'm AAA hitting coach. I'm thinking that an opportunity to go to the big leagues is coming. And again, it would have, and like I said, it did after I left. And then all of a sudden, a guy that I don't know asked me, are you interested in a travel program? And it just happened to be at a transition time where I'm trying to figure out if I'm not going to the big leagues, how do I get home and be with my family?
Steve Phillips is now in his 9th year as the program director for the Cyclones, a travel baseball organization which fields 14 youth baseball teams and 5 softball teams. His windy road to Sioux Falls may not have always been smooth, but it all timed out.
Life is really good. I enjoy this. I enjoy the families and the kids that we work with, and I get calls every day about how can we get on a team next year. So I know there's an opportunity to add teams. It's just, do we have the time and space to add them? And that's what we're looking into over the next month. We'll be deciding how many teams we'll add to this going into next year.
And joined by Jason and Dara. And Jandy, when adults get together, they just want to talk about, what are your kids up to? So let's talk about Steve's kids, who have all done very well athletically.
Exactly. Christopher, you might remember, was a state champion basketball player at Roosevelt, also excelled at baseball, is now playing baseball at the University of Benedictine in Mesa, Arizona. Okay. He's still got a couple years left. And then Mackenzie Phillips also played basketball for Roosevelt, is also going to college in the state of Arizona right now. And his youngest, Marcus. You may remember Marcus from the impact he made with the Little League team from Sioux Falls that made it all the way to Williamsport. Probably their best player, is playing in the 14U division right now with the Cyclones. So watch out for him in a couple years.
All right, great story. Appreciate it. Jason and Darren. Well, up next, another family man, a pro soccer player who went from South America to South Dakota and has since settled in with his soccer playing family in Pierre.
Midco Sports Magazine on Midco Sports Network is presented by Shields and Sanford Orthopedics and Sports Medicine.
Welcome back to Midco Sports Magazine, and a soccer story now, kind of apropos with the World Cup going on. But this is not about packed stadiums and playing for national pride. It is, though, about a former professional player from Brazil and his family of footballers in Pierre, South Dakota. Here's Alex Heinert.
If you find yourself in Pierre and get a craving for Mexican food, locals will tell you the go-to place is Guadalajara, a capital city culinary staple for the last 2 decades. Located on Pierre's main drag, the family restaurant is owned and operated by Sidney and Elizabeth Zanin, a married couple who opened the place back in 2002. You'll be hard-pressed to find a family that's more involved in their community, as along with the restaurant, Elizabeth also runs a dance studio, while Sidney is the head coach of the high school girls' soccer team. The love they have for their town is obvious. But while they're a part of Pierre's fabric now, their story starts a long way from the Dakotas.
I am from Guadalajara, Mexico. The state is Jalisco.
Paraná is the state. Francisco Beltrão is the town. All the way south Brazil, almost on the border with Argentina and Paraguay. That's what I'm from.
So how did a guy from Brazil and a girl from Mexico end up together in South Dakota? Sidney gives all the credit to the sport his home country is famous for.
Soccer is what brought me to the United States. Soccer is what made me meet my family. Soccer is what drove everything, actually. I was raised in a family of soccer players, so I was destined to be a soccer player ever since I was very, very young.
Zanin started his professional soccer career at 16 and soon was playing in the top domestic league in Brazil. But at the age of 24, he decided a change of scenery was needed.
I had some contacts to come over here and start playing and stuff, but I came with blindfold and I just, nothing. I didn't know anybody. I didn't know a word of English back then.
Despite the language barrier and unfamiliar surroundings, soccer transcended all and would soon lead Sidney on a journey that would stretch from coast to coast.
In 1986, I played in New York at first. After that, 1990, I moved to Seattle. I got a chance to play for the Seattle Sounders in that time.
The Sounders in the mid-90s weren't the MLS powerhouse they are today. But the club was still hugely popular, and Zanin helped them earn a league title in 1996. But playing in Seattle would lead to more than just on-field success. With an assist from a teammate, Sidney would meet someone who would change his life forever.
I was coaching locally and I met her brother.
My brother, he was the best. They were the best friends.
Her brother and I play in the same team. We go to Mexico every year for like 5 friendly games in Puerto Vallarta.
All the family came to Puerto Vallarta to see my brother, and I met my husband, and we were dating 1 week, and now we are together for almost 22 years.
God drives you to the right spot to meet the right person, and I think she is my soulmate.
He's my angel. I call him my angel because he came in the right time.
After they were married, Sidney and Elizabeth stayed in Seattle and soon were a family of 5. But after a few years, a simpler life away from the big city was calling.
I just want to raise my family in a place that I didn't have to watch over my shoulder or be worried about my kids wherever they go, and you know, so that's why we picked South Dakota.
The Zanins settled in Pierre, and the town is better for it. Along with bringing a dance studio and authentic Mexican dining to the capital city, Sidney and his 3 daughters have led the Lady Govs to 14 straight appearances at the South Dakota High School State Soccer Tournament. This past fall, the team won the state title for the first time in program history, with Middle Zanin sister and South Dakota Player of the Year Joanna scoring to ice the win.
They played really well. It was not by luck or anything. They're meant to win. Once they get to the playoffs, those girls never look back.
The team never looked back, and neither have Sidney and Elizabeth, who have no plans to leave their adopted hometown anytime soon. The path to where they are now wasn't always clear or easy, but the Zanins and the community they live in are thankful they followed it.
God had a plan for me. That's what I always think about it. He had a plan for me, and it took to a place that I'm really, really happy. So I just can't see myself doing anything else and anywhere else.
Be here in this country and work hard, you know, and do good things. Your dreams come true.
And joined now by Alex Heinert. And Alex, great story of how this family got together in the first place. And now in Pierre, they have brought so much to the soccer community in the city of Pierre, have they not?
They really have. It's incredible to see really what one family can do for a community like that. When the Zanins came to Pierre, yeah, there was a soccer culture there, but certainly not to the level that there is now. And since they've arrived, the boys team has won state titles. The girls team just won their first. Cool to see what a passion for a sport inside this family has just spread throughout the capital city in South Dakota.
All right, and speaking of that, one of the Zanin daughters is going to go play Division I college soccer, right?
Yeah, Joanna Zanin had an unbelievable season last year for Pierre, scored 29 goals, first team All-State for the second time in her career. She was just named South Dakota Gatorade Player of the Year and is going to play for the Coyotes in the Summit League next season. So a tremendous accomplishment for her. She's going to be a big-time player in the Summit next year.
All right, very cool. Great story. Thanks a lot, Alex Heinert. More Midco Sports Magazine when we come back. But first, this month's Science of Sports with Tony Smoragiewicz, professional triathlete from Rapid City.
Sports science is really understanding the physiology and the biomechanics behind athletic performance and health and safety. Triathlon consists of running, cycling, and swimming. So we wanted to assess Tony in a variety of different ways because there are numerous demands for his particular sport. So we tested him on the bike so that we could measure his VO2 max. Endurance athletes rely upon energy systems that utilize oxygen. So if you have a higher rate of being able to utilize oxygen within this metabolic system, you can generate energy and produce power at a higher and more sustainable rate. And that's what's really important for triathletes, is to have a high rate of power output sustained over a period of time.
Midco Sports Magazine on Midco Sports Network is presented by Shields and Sanford Orthopedics and Sports Medicine.
Welcome back. Minneapolis hosted the Super Bowl this past February, and tucked in amongst all of the hoopla was a wonderful event for wounded military veterans hosted by Sanford Health. Elena Lanson has our story.
Feeling at home can be a foreign thing to veterans who have been injured in combat. and the feeling of normality is rare.
Before you even get inside the door, you're going to see the American flag again, you're going to see the service seals outside.
One group's mission has been to make them feel at home again in the most unlikely places.
Here's a place that they can relax. Here's a place that's a safe place. Here's a place where they can share camaraderie.
Sanford Health added a veterans waiting room to their hospital, and since it opened in April, over 150 veterans have signed in and enjoyed the peace and quiet in a normally stressful environment.
When those patients see us veterans, and they're a veteran, that anxiety level drops down real quick, and they open up. And that's what we want to see too, have that experience while they're here being treated for.
While opening up and being around comrades lends an opportunity for a sense of security, there is one setting where ordinary civilians would feel out of place.
Finally, quarterback.
And that's on the football field with standout college and NFL legends. But at the Wounded Warriors amputee football game, injured veterans feel a sense of belonging and are able to tap into their competitive spirit once again. This past January marked the 7th annual pre-Super Bowl Wounded Warriors game, and Sanford Health bused local veterans from Sioux Falls and Fargo to the Super Bowl site. The goal is to showcase the perseverance of the Wounded Warriors and their families. But to these injured veterans, it goes a step further. It gives them the opportunity to share their story with others who are on the same playing field.
For a couple days a year and a couple of games, you're around people where you're absolutely normal. Every one of us are going through it, maybe not at the same time, but you can be brutally honest with yourself and you can express that openly because they've been through it or somebody has a suggestion or something like that. So as a group, we can rely on each other all the way down to our souls.
One could only imagine the importance of feeling normal and accepted, but for veterans at the event, it has a life-changing effect.
I was in northern Iraq and there was an explosion in a house that I was in, and I was injured very badly. Through a lot of surgeries, I tried to save the arm. A couple years later, the decision was made to go ahead and amputate.
For Kelly Smith, a Navy corpsman of 20 years, this game has helped her adapt to a new way of living while also finding her old self again.
They were in Tampa, and that's where I was in the hospital, and they came by, and one of them said a few words, and he's a double leg amputee and a partial arm amputee, and he turned around and told me to get off my butt, and I got mad at him, but I needed that in your face, that honesty, and that was 5 years ago.
For many, that little nudge gave them the push they needed to get back to feeling like themselves and involved in something that brings so many from the same community together.
She's not quite so shy and reserved. She wasn't prior to her injuries, but certainly after. That's, traumatic situation that she's been in.
Obviously life has been hard for her with her injuries and the loss of her left arm. So it's just neat to see how so many people reach out to her and respect her and her chance to get to be athletic and play sports.
To have them here and have my family and to look over and see them. But the big part is to look at them and to see it in their faces where they know I'm okay again. You can see that they're relaxed, because before when I would be around, everybody was a little on edge, but now they just look and they're smiling, they're like, yeah, she's back.
On this journey, they also inspire some of their own heroes, and that inspiration does not go unnoticed.
I really can't imagine what it's like to voluntarily take time out of your life to go serve our country, to leave your family, to leave your kids, and then God forbid if something actually happens to you while you're over there and now you're disabled and you're hurt.
They've been through a lot in their lives. They've been through a lot of things that we have never, or I never will experience. So they're so strong, and it's just awesome to see them out here having fun just like we do.
If I were in the same condition, I'd be like laying on my bed crying, you know what I mean? And these guys show you what's possible, what they can do. They get up there, they're fighters, and they get up and they keep going. You can't knock them down, So that's very inspiring. I mean, just to see that, whether they're playing football or whatever they're doing, I just think it's very impressive to see people with that kind of human spirit.
At the end of the day, it doesn't matter if your jersey says Wounded Warriors. You're a pro, a family member, or another veteran rooting on. You're leaving that event with much more than you came with.
we just love watching her play, and we love watching her smile and just be in this kind of place with the other teammates. It just really warms our hearts to be able to see her shine.
They brought the hope back. They've brought my determination, my competitiveness back. They brought my family back. They've helped make me into the person I am today.
And joined now by Elena Lanson. And you're there doing this story. What was your sense? We heard from some of the Wounded Warriors about what they think they get out of this kind of event. What was your sense of what the Wounded Warriors come away from?
I mean, just seeing their families and the Wounded Warriors connect again. I mean, they're seeing them out there, they're being happy, they're being active again. And as a soldier, you have to go through so much training, and you have an athletic ability. And so getting back out there and kind of getting back to that work ethic and kind of, you know, the competitiveness of the game, I think that they really enjoy that. And just seeing their faces light up, and you know, the families just feed off of that, and they get back to feeling like themselves again.
All right. And Sanford obviously makes a great effort to take care of veterans, but also for Sanford employees, they make an effort to make people aware that, yes, we need to really take care of these people, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And on their name cards, they also say veterans. So, you know, the people that are going to the hospital can relate to the people that are actually working there. They can have those conversations and interact about their different experiences. So it kind of makes everybody feel at home. And when they get there, veterans get these decals that they can put on their cars. So immediately when they pull up to valet, you know, they're already being recognized. And when they get there, they see their flags and their seals and everything like that. So they're kind of getting that treatment. And when you're an employee, that makes you feel at home too.
All right, great stuff. Thanks a lot, Elena Lanson. Thanks for watching Midco Sports Magazine. You can find this episode and all episodes on YouTube.
This has been Midco Sports Magazine, presented by Shields and Sanford Orthopedics and Sports Medicine.